Hey, so today I wanted to do a video about what I would consider a specific sort of imposter syndrome that I deal with as someone who has AvPD, and I thought some of you guys might as well. Um, so imposter syndrome in general is pretty much just part of AvPD. Obviously, anyone that can experience it, you don't have to have AvPD, but if you do have AvPD, you've probably dealt with it, basically feeling like any skills and talents you have are not real, and any accomplishments you've made based off of those are really just from luck, and you constantly worry that someone's going to expose you as not actually having known what the hell was going on the whole time. So this is really just part of AvPD with our low self-esteem and our expectation and fear of criticism. But what I wanted to talk about was actually more about doubting that your disorder exists. So this is something I've dealt with a long time with my anxiety in general. It's just like whenever you fail to do something due to your anxiety or depression, people around you don't necessarily understand what you're going through. And so even if they don't explicitly say that they don't think you're trying, they think you're being lazy or something like that, it sort of feels like that's what they think, and that feeling sort of rubs off on you, and you have to wonder whether you're actually trying or whether your anxiety is real, basically. And the thing about that is that everybody does have actual moments of laziness where we procrastinate or whatever. And whenever people like us have those, we feel like that validates all our other failures as also being due to laziness or procrastination or disinterest or whatever, when in reality our anxiety was real. And it also has sort of an opposite effect where if you do succeed at something or you do make progress on your anxiety, you're left wondering whether your anxiety actually existed at all the whole time. So this is something I've dealt with throughout my life, of course. Every time I would perform with band or make a phone call successfully, or the short period of time I worked a job, it made me wonder if my anxiety was real at all, because I somehow managed to do all of those things, so I couldn't if I was actually that anxious, right? Of course, that's not actually true, because I was super anxious the whole time, and it didn't get any easier in the future, and every time I had something coming up, I would dwell on it for weeks, and dwell on it for weeks afterwards. So, of course, it was real, and the fact that I did manage to make myself do those things, sometimes you just feel like you have to, and that can be good, and it can also be bad for your long-term mental health. So it doesn't mean in any case that the anxiety wasn't real. And more recently, I've been dealing with this, I wrote a book, and so it's like, well, I've never managed to do that before, and I thought it was because I was so depressed I couldn't do it, but now I did manage to do it. Was my depression not real? Well, of course not. I just managed to push through. But, it sometimes feels like that, and posting these videos all the time, it's like, I couldn't do that if I was super anxious, right? Well, apparently I'm managing to do it because I feel like it's really important, but it still makes me feel super anxious every time I do it. And the same thing with these medications, they're helping me out a bit, and it's like, were my physical anxiety symptoms ever really that bad? Well, yeah, of course they were. Every 4 hours when my medicine wears off, they're that bad again. But, I still just have the tendency to doubt myself. And I imagine some of you guys deal with the same sort of stuff. And it also comes along with this feeling that you're changing others' expectations when you do succeed at something, and that incentivizes you to not try, which is, of course, not good. Sometimes you imagine you're changing other people's expectations, and sometimes they explicitly say, well, you did this before, why can't you do it now? And that sort of thought goes through my head all the time, and only makes it harder to try things, because it changes your own expectations too. You feel like, I've done this before, I should be able to do it again. But every day is different, and every exact scenario is different, and you just got to treat it like that, and keep trying, and know that just because you've done something once doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be able to do it every time, and that's okay. And I have to remind myself of that a lot. And one other thing it does, sort of the opposite deal, whenever you do accept that your anxiety is real and not imagined, you might sometimes think about other people having gone through so much worse and feeling like they turned out so much better. And I deal with this a lot, especially when if I'm watching mental health videos on YouTube or something, you know, a lot of the bigger channels that do interviews and stuff might have inspirational messages of people that went through so much and now look where they are. And of course, that just makes me feel like, well, I didn't really have any huge traumas. I didn't have any uniquely bad humiliations. I don't have any addiction issues. I don't have any physical health issues. So how can I be so much weaker than these people and not just be able to get on with my life? But of course, what I have to remember is that everybody is different, for one thing, but also that small things can add up, and you don't necessarily have to have one huge bad experience or a couple of huge bad experiences for the way you're feeling to be valid, basically. You know, like, I didn't have any huge things happen to me, but I had a lot of persistent reinforcement of the bad ways I felt about myself, and that's sort of what caused my anxiety and my low self-esteem and stuff. And you know, that's just as valid as if something horrible had screwed me up, basically. So I try to remind myself of that, and I try to remind myself that if I'm not getting better, it doesn't mean that I'm not trying, and when I am getting better, it doesn't mean that my anxiety or depression ever existed. It means that I'm working hard to overcome it. And really the only thing that matters is what I can do right now. So I just try to normalize how I see myself, because I know I have a tendency to not give myself enough credit. So that doesn't mean I try to convince myself I'm perfect. It's just every time I'm wondering about how hard I'm trying or whether any of it's real, I just give myself a little more credit than my brain wants to by default, basically. So yeah, that's about it. Not any huge revelations or anything. I just wanted to mention that because I deal with these thoughts a lot, especially, like I said, more recently with my getting my book draft done and starting these medicines. And yeah, I just think about that a lot, and I thought some of you guys might too, and it might make you feel a little better to just remind yourself that other people are feeling like that, and basically we shouldn't be doing that to ourselves. But yeah, that's about it, and I'll see you guys next time.